Hello there, welcome to my channel. Welcome to Curious Spirits, the channel where we explore spirits in all its glory. Today we're taking a look at a fantastic little rum that I discovered. It is called the Chairman's Reserve Legacy. Now, a little bit of backstory about this. Chairman's Reserve is made by Saint Lucia Distillers, which is the only distillery on the island of Saint Lucia in the Caribbean. So the history of distilling on Saint Lucia is that there used to be two distilleries, one run by the Barnard family, and it was called Dennery Distillery, and the other one was run by the Geest family, and it was called Roseau Bay Distillery. Now, in 1972, those two distilleries merged, and the Barnard family kind of took full control in the early 90s, in about 1993. Starting in 1998, they sold about 25% of shares to Trinidad Distillers Limited, which is the House of Angostura. And then by 2005, they were completely owned by the parent company of TDL as well. Relatively recently, around 2017, 2018, they got then taken over by Spiribam, which is a French consortium. And so now they're in the same stable as other rums like Rum Clément and Rum JM, so both rum agricoles. Now, being part of that Spiribam family has allowed them to get better distribution, has allowed them to kind of grow their production, kind of renew their distillery. They're focusing more on energy efficiency now. So, you know, there's good things coming from that partnership. Now, even with the mergers and acquisitions, Laurie Bernard remained managing director of the distillery, and under his management, he kind of changed quite a couple of things. So, for instance, the growth of sugarcane on Saint Lucia was kind of dead. He brought back growing sugarcane on Saint Lucia so he could distill a small portion, but still he could distill rum made from cane juice instead of just molasses. He also made sure that he had his own distinct yeast strains. So at Saint Lucia Distillers, they have two yeast strains, type A and type B, and they're cultivated specifically for them. In terms of brands, Saint Lucia Distillers kind of has four brands. The first one, and probably the oldest one, is called Denros, which is kind of a blend of the former Dennery Distillery and Roseau Bay Distillery. It's 80% ABV, unaged overproof rum, and it's mainly made for local use and for mixing in cocktails. I haven't seen one of those bottles around here. Then there's also Bounty Rum, which is a little bit more known, and they've started to distribute to other countries as well, although I believe it's not available where I am. And that is kind of their entry-level rum, more made for mixing. They have white rums, they have dark rums, all under the Bounty name. The third brand is Admiral Rodney. Admiral Rodney is their like high-end premium brand of rums. And it's like the HMS Royal Oak, HMS Princessia, all of that. So they're named after ships, after British ships. And all the juice in Admiral Rodney is higher aged, 10 plus years, but everything is column distilled. And then there's Chairman's Reserve. Chairman's Reserve was the brainchild of Laurie Bernard, and it's a mixture of the different juices that they can provide or make at Saint Lucia Distillers. So in here, there is column distillate, there's also pot still distillate, and there is cane juice distillate that was distilled on a pot still as well. So it's a blend of different marks that they can make. Everything in Chairman's Reserve is blended with several types. The Legacy has a couple of unique twists on it. So in terms of operations, most of the rum distilled at Saint Lucia Distillers is molasses-based rum. They get their rum from Guyana. And what's interesting is that, because they're an island, obviously, the molasses arrive on a tanker, and then a diver actually has to connect a hose to a pipeline. That pipeline runs over a kilometer long, first under the sea, and then over land to fill some huge storage tanks at the distillery. Fermentation of their products is in open tanks, so there is some wild yeast elements contributing to that, and they ferment their mash for around 24 to 36 hours depending on the recipe. As I said, this is a blend of pot and column still, which also means that they obviously have pot and column stills at the distillery. In fact, they've got 4 different stills. There's John Doerr 1, which is a very small pot still with about a 450 liter capacity. Was installed in 1998, so a relatively new-ish still. Then there's John Doerr 2, which is its rather big daddy. It has a 6,000 liter capacity and it was installed in 2005. Then there's a Vendome hybrid still, which means it's a pot still with a column attached to it. It's a relatively small column with 9 plates. Got a capacity of 1,400-ish liters. And interestingly enough, it was actually brought over from the Trinidad Distillers distillery in 2003. So if you find older Trinidad rums from 2001, 2002, they're still available at the independent bottlers, at least in my area. That still that was used for those is now in use in Saint Lucia. And then fourthly, of course, is the column still. They've got a double column still, which was installed in 1985, so it's the oldest still there. It's a 45 plate column, which means that they have 45 different plates that they can use or not use to kind of change the output of the distillate that they make. They can distill up to 95-ish% ABV, which is extremely high, stripping a lot of flavor, but they usually distill to lower than that. They've got different types, so they can make light, medium, and heavy rum. The light rum that they distill on that column still uses the type A yeast strain, and that's mostly used for blending, and the overproof rum, so the Denros rum is coming from that. And then the medium and heavy rum, which means rum with more flavors. No fly, this is my rum. Rum with more flavors, they use a type B yeast strain. And then they distill it to a lower ABV to make sure that there's more rum character intact. That is then the rum that they use for aging. So all in all, with the different setups and with the cane juice that they have available, they can make 8 different base distillates. Specifically then for this legacy release in the Chairman's Reserve lineup. This was introduced in 2018 as an homage, and you can see it here, to Laurie Barnard, which was, as I told you previously, the managing director at the distillery for a long time, and he is kind of the reason, or part of the reason, that Chairman's Reserve is having the success that they have now. He introduced the yeast strains, he introduced the cane juice distillate and stuff like that. He did a lot for the distillery. So this is an homage to him. I found a kind of the contents of this bottle online, although it was not mentioned by Saint Lucia Distillers themselves, so it could have changed between its release in 2018 and what they have on the market today in 2025. But the contents is about 16% of the rum in here is from the John Doerr 2 pot still, which is the big pot still, and it's aged for about 7.5 years. 4% of the content is from that Vendome hybrid still, aged for about 7 years. 72% of the content is column still distillate from that coffee still. It is the heavy distillate that they've used, and it's aged for about 5.5 years. And then 8% of its contents are again from that John Doerr 2 pot still, but that is cane juice based rum, aged for about 5 years as well. So it's between 5 and 7 years of age, a blend of all of their different types. In terms of color, it's got this nice golden hue, almost amber-like in color. And as I was talking to you, I could already smell the rum coming out of the glass. So let's dig in a little deeper. So at first I'm getting influence of the oak, the vanilla essence especially of the oak is coming through, but there's very nice fruit in there as well. I'm getting some mango, definitely some banana. And as I'm going in further, I'm also getting like a leathery tobacco note and just a hint of that kind of fresh cut grass note that you get from cane juice distillate. So you kind of smell the cane juice in there, but it is not at all overpowering. And I know that there's a lot of people who don't like cane juice distillate, especially like these white rums from Martinique or Guadeloupe, because they are very vegetal in their flavor. I don't think you'd have an issue with this. It's mild enough that I don't think it would come into play on that. Let's have a sip. So on entry, it's quite light, and then it starts developing flavors in terms of fruitiness, in terms of vanilla as well. And then like on the back end of the palate, there's a sudden increase in tannins, and it kind of really hits your cheeks and kind of sucks them dry for a little bit. And then on the finish, that fruit is coming back. So right now I'm getting some papaya, I'm getting some mango, even getting a hint of orange, together with that slight grassy note, together with that vanilla, almost creme brulee-esque character from that cask. And so it's a very enjoyable rum for me to drink. You can see I've already emptied quite a bit of this bottle, because what it allows to do is it's approachable enough. It is fruity enough to just approach without too much hassle. Enjoy it while watching some TV, while reading a book, without really having to deeply engage with it. It's not a very challenging or demanding rum on that part, but on the other side, if you do decide to engage with it, if you give it some time, if you focus on what it's offering you, then there is more than enough depth and character to this to keep exploring, really. So I'm gonna add some water to this. What I didn't mention is that this rum has been bottled at 43% ABV, so it's a little bit above the minimum. I do not think that it's mentioned on the bottle itself, but I do believe that this doesn't have any added sugar. It might have some caramel to color it. While this water is sort of integrating with the rum, I'm just gonna have a quick look at the box here and see if they have anything about additives on here. So there's a story about Laurie Barnard, that he wanted to change things. He wasn't content with mediocrity, which I'm not either. It's fantastic. La-di-da. Okay, so nothing on here about additives, but I do believe that this rum doesn't have all that much in terms of flavor changing additives. Let's see if the water did anything. On the nose, it seems to have brought out the fruit character a little bit more. So I'm getting more banana here. And that leathery note is coming forward more. The barrel notes are a little bit more to the background. And then actually interesting, what it did in terms of flavor is initially you get more of that fruitiness. The hit of tannins is less harsh, obviously, because I did add quite a bit of water in it. I believe if you add water to something, I'd rather add enough so that the impact is noticeable. But so the impact of that hit on your cheeks in terms of tannins is less, but it's still there, and you kind of don't have that second wave of fruits coming back in. So actually the tannin and the spicy note is almost a little, I'm not going to say more noticeable, but it lingers for longer. That is just absolutely beautiful. I must say I do prefer it without water. I think there's a little bit more complexity in there, but this is an absolute stunner of a rum. So if you're looking to buy something and you like, this is a British style rum, so it's got enough body. It is a little bit bourbon-esque. I know for US viewers, a lot of people are raving about Foursquare, which is kind of for a lot of people the entry level, or not going to say entry level, but kind of the gateway rum from people transitioning from bourbon to rum. But this Chairman's Reserve Legacy is absolutely beautiful. So if you've got this bottle, let me know what you think of it. Let me know where it ranks for you. This has definitely piqued my interest, so I'm going to be looking for more Chairman's Reserve and Admiral Rodney in the future, and kind of explore and see what they're up to. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this glass on this lovely day here outside. Cheers.